I'd like to thank Juliet Peters of Framework Legal for joining us on this Delta Business Bite about legal landmines, also known as contract gotchas.
Actually, right now.
So, oh, well, there you go.
Talk to me about why is this important?
Okay. So this is one of the things where, you know, if you have to talk to a client about it, they're like dozing off in the middle of it, right? They don't really care. But they really should care, because this section called survivability dictates, number one, most of the time, whether or not you can come back and argue with the other party you're contracting with, whether or not there's a claim. So let me give you an example about how this would work. When you go to sell a business, you make a bunch of promises when you sell your business about the conditions of the business, representations and warranties. You sell the business, and 6 months later, the business, the buyer discovers that the inventory was all jacked up and way off, right? So now they're going to come to you and they're going to say, you got to make us right on this, right? Well, there's a lot less incentive if there's no representations and warranties that survive past the closing. Because in effect, what that says is those promises we made, yeah, they were good up until we closed this deal. And then after, too bad, so sad. You might be able to come back at me if there's somebody had a slip and fall, for example, that we didn't know about, that just then, you know, was a claim, right? After the business was sold, but it was from before the business, right? That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about conditions, promises that you made. So there's always an argument about how long should those promises trail. When you're on the buyer side, you want them to trail as long as possible, right? And a lot of times we'll get on things like corporate organization, it's indefinite, right? On things like the important promises that are called non-fundamental, those could average, you know, 24 months. That's too long in my book. I'm coming from the other side of the equation if I'm representing. So I really want to shorten that. I want to keep it really short. And the smaller the deal, the shorter I want to keep that window, because I don't want my clients on a, you know, $280,000 business sale to have liability that's trailing for 2 years, right? The average for most contracts is either on business side contracts, no survivability of representations and warranties, but claims would be able to run through their statute of limitations. In business sales, a lot of times it's between 12 and 18 months. And that's really the average. The average is actually 15 months. You know, sellers want to have it at 12 months. And buyers want 18, but that's kind of the window. So that's why it's important, because if you get into a dispute, this is one of the first places somebody's going to look, because they're going to ask, well, what claims could we make? And, oh, this claim we can't make because it doesn't survive. And so we don't really have that option. So that's why it's really important.
And it's even more important for attorneys than the business owners, because that's who's looking.
That's exactly right. And this is one where sometimes you get into tension with your own client, because they don't want you spending money on this, which they consider the legal junk. But honestly, it's the legal junk that really matters when there's a dispute.